Boxing Truth here, back with another video. Make sure to smash that like button, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Alright, let's talk about this situation with WO finally ordering a fight between Crawford and Shawn Porter. Honestly, there's no reason to get excited. No real reason to get excited just yet. Just because a sanctioning body orders a fight doesn't mean it's going to happen. And honestly, I don't see this fight happening, even though it's been ordered. Now, it will be interesting to see who bitches out of this fight. Maybe because of most likely the fight will fall apart because Shawn Porter was #1 contender before for Crawford as recently as a couple of months ago, and he admitted that PBC told him not to push for the fight, not to put any pressure, not to try to enforce his position. And as a result, he was dropped from the rankings one spot, at least, maybe two spots. Now, in the latest rankings of WO, he's #2. Now that Virgil Ortiz is #1. But as I stated before, just because you're #1 contender doesn't mean you're the official mandatory challenger. And also because Virgil Ortiz has decided not to enforce his position and has decided to take a experience fight with a developing fight with a Aegis Kavalauskas, the meme machine, in order to get as ready as possible for his eventual shot at Crawford. Now, Shawn Porter, he was in Ortiz's position before. He didn't enforce He didn't enforce position. It wasn't ordered just yet by WO, but he wasn't pushing for it. Therefore, he was dropped from the rankings. So this is the same scenario here. Now they've ordered the fight. They've given them 30 days to negotiate. But here's the problem with this fight. Who's gonna pay for it? Who's gonna pay Shawn the money that he's going to want for this type of fight? He's going to want at least $2 to $3 million for this type of fight because he knows it's a dangerous fight and he knows it's a fight he's most likely going to lose against an undefeated Terence Crawford. Shawn Porter, experience, been around the block, two-time champion, solid resume, has lost to every A-level fighter he's ever fought, or every A-level welterweight. He's given a good account of himself in some of these showings, except the Brook fight. But the problem with this fight is Bob's not going to pay for it. He's not going to take an L on this fight, where this fight will only generate the most, if they're lucky, 150K pay-per-view buys. You already got to pay Terence Crawford his $4 million guarantee. Now you got to add a desired purse for Shawn, which is around maybe $2 to $3 million, in order to put this fight together. So that's $7 million in purses for the main event, for a fight that only generates, if they're lucky, 150K pay-per-view buys. Do the math. They'll barely break even or possibly be at a loss if that fight generates that type of number. This is not a marquee fight. It's a significant fight, but it's not a huge fight. It's not a big fight. I mean, they're not even coming together to put a Crawford-Spence fight. So, is there really any money in this fight? With the guarantee that Bob has to pay Crawford, and the request that Shawn's going to put in to face a Terence Crawford for this type of fight, it really depends if PBC really wants to pay for this fight. Are they going to push for this fight? Are they going to push it to purse bid and put themselves at risk in losing the bid against maybe another entity, another entrepreneur out there that wants to put on this fight, another league? Who knows? When it goes to a purse bid, anything's possible. Someone can just come out of nowhere and throw a lot of money for this fight, which is what Bob wants, because there's no way in hell he's going to pay $7 million in purses for a fight that's not even going to generate 200K pay-per-view buys. So there's definitely pressure on Top Rank and Crawford for this order, because they'll lose the promotion They'll lose the control of the promotion. Crawford will most likely have to fight on another network, not on ESPN, and there's just no way he's going to vacate that title unless he's going to move up in weight. But I don't see him vacating the title since it's really hard for him to get some fights, even as champion. Losing that title is going to be a major blow to Crawford's career. But I really doubt PBC has any plans in negotiating this fight. I think we'll get an answer relatively quickly, most likely within 30 days, because they weren't pushed for this fight when Porter was #1 contender, and they're probably surprised at this recent ruling. They probably weren't even expecting it. They already probably had plans in place for Shawn Porter to fight someone else. I mean, there are reports out there about a possible Thurman Porter rematch. You've had Shawn mention Ugas. I mean, you had Shawn mention Jamal James. You had perhaps Thurman going after Ugas. The winners fight each other for an eventual rematch down the line. I just seriously doubt, because PBC knows Shawn Porter can't beat Terence Crawford. They know. Which is why they're not pushing for the fight, and they advised Shawn Porter not to take the fight when he was a #1 contender. Are they really going to sacrifice one of their named welterweights against a rival promoter's undefeated fighter who is still under contract to Top Rank? And there's a possibility he may be under contract for even further if he wants that Josh Taylor fight. Terence Crawford does. I seriously doubt it. I seriously doubt PBC will negotiate this fight, even if they can control the promotion, even if they get handed the bill to pay for this fight, because it is an expensive fight that doesn't generate a lot of buys. And their named welterweight is going to get the very strong possibility he gets annihilated in this fight. It's a bad style for Shawn Porter, a rangy southpaw who can counter with power, and Shawn has trouble against guys who have range and have distance, and he has to get inside. Bad style for him, bad matchup. The most likely outcome of this fight is Terence Crawford by a late stoppage, as he runs into one of the many counters that Shawn will run into as he tries to close the distance and try to get inside on Crawford's longer arms, range, and step back counters. Just a bad style for him. Shawn has always had problems dealing with fighters who use distance, use range, and this is a guy who's a switch hitter who can counter and has power in both hands and knockout power. And he has shown he's shown really good power and strength in the welterweight division, more so than he has shown in the lightweight division. Crawford is a lot stronger at this weight than he was when he was at lightweight, when he was draining himself to make that weight. And he's bullying natural welterweights like Mean Machine and Jeff Holm. Shawn Porter, it won't be much of a contest in my opinion, but it's a decent fight. It will be one of the best fights for Crawford out there because of his struggle to get big name opponents on his side. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. I seriously doubt PBC is gonna pursue this. I know Bob is not going to try to make this fight because he can't afford it, so he's going to hope that PBC pays for it or somebody pays for it so he gets his percentage. And Terence Crawford will continue on with his WBO title reign, whether that's going to be Shawn Porter or not. But the mandatory is long overdue. It's been almost 2 years, December of 2019, since Crawford made his mandatory defense. And if Shawn Porter doesn't take the fight, the list it'll just go down that list. Mikey Garcia, doubt he takes it. He's most likely going to fight Prograis. Don't know who the fuck this guy is. Hopefully he doesn't take it. But Jerome Ennis is #6. Maybe he be called upon to fulfill the mandatory obligation. And he's not a PBC fighter, so that's a very strong possibility if he wants to pursue that road and take his first title shot against a dangerous champion and undefeated champion in Terence Crawford. So it's interesting that WBO has decided to order this fight. They most likely know that this fight, it has a strong chance of not happening. But the mandatories do. And let's see if Shawn Porter and PBC actually pursue this fight. I'd be surprised if they do. Most likely, they're going to go with their original plans. And that's a Porter-Thurman rematch or a build-up to that with a Jamal James fight for Shawn Porter next. But we'll see, man. Most likely it won't happen. That's why I'm not excited, not getting my hopes up. I'll believe it when I see it, especially when it comes to purse bid fights. We still waiting to see if George Kambosos' Teofimo Lopez is going to happen. And that shit is most likely not going to happen. So, just because the sanctioning bodies orders these fights doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. But man, it's going to be interesting to see if Terence Crawford vacates or Shawn Porter rejects the ordered mandatory for the WBO. Either way, both guys are gonna be they're gonna hear it from the fans, man. Whatever happens in the outcome of this, which is most likely the fight not happening, and one of these guys pulling out. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.